Hello, my name is Rob Warden. I am the host of Check It Out with Rob. And my guest today is Jimmy Mundy, who has his master's degree in English literature from Yale University. Hello, Jimmy.
Good to be here, Rob.
And today we are going to be discussing Death of a Salesman. Now, I'll kick it off. The first thing I would like to discuss is on pages 16 and 17. There is a flashback sequence that Willie has, and I thought this was really interesting because in the flashback sequence, or in this specific flashback, he is reminiscing about young Biff and young Happy when they are younger than they are now, when they're young teenagers or teenagers. And he really has an admiration for Biff, and he really respects him. And I thought this was interesting because in the present, we can see that he really does not like his son. He really just, there's something about him that just sets him off, you know? Willie always gets angry when he's around Biff, and I thought it was interesting how that transition occurred. And, Jimmy?
About
the
flashback, I thought it was interesting how he has to tell his brother Ben to tell his sons about...
Well, this was in a different flashback, but you get...
Right, in a different flashback. About his, he has to tell his brother to tell the Biff and Happy about their grandfather because he never knew him, so... And that really causes his abandonment issues later on in life, which really ends up shaping his whole life in the book.
Yeah. And, I kind of connected his, sort of hatred for Biff and the transition of those feelings from respect to hatred as the point where, Biff caught his father cheating on Linda. And you could really see Biff start to kind of just deteriorate. Like it was like Biff decided that he didn't want to go to college after that. His life kind of molded from this one experience, and that's kind of the whole thing that this book is talking about, like experiences shaping your life and how these experiences all kind of mold together to shape your personality. And you know, and there's this sheet that I have right here about everything that I want to talk about. And Jimmy, how about you start us off with anything at all from this sheet, and then I will continue. And here's the book if you need it.
Well, I really think one of those experiences that really alters his life, Willie's life, is how his father abandoned him when he was a child. And this really causes his abandonment issues in the present, and how he always has to be well liked by everybody, and he hates to be disliked, and that really messes up his future, because all he worries about is how people either like him or dislike him. If they dislike him, he throws tantrums, and he hallucinates about his younger brother, or brother Ben, because he's just afraid of being alone, and he'll do whatever he can do to not feel alone.
And isn't this also shown by his boss, Howard, who is significantly younger than him? And when Willie goes in to ask for a steady job that he doesn't have to travel for, Howard just keeps calling him kid. He just keeps undermining him.
Right.
And I found that to be interesting because Howard doesn't show respect for Willie, and this just further infuriates him. And you know, it all relates to, at the end, how he just runs off with the car and how he commits suicide.
Right.
Yeah. And the next idea I think we can both talk about is a quote, and this is on page 61. I wrote it down on here, so I won't open the book. But the quote is, "And when I saw that, I realized that selling was the greatest career a man could want. Because what could be more satisfying than to be able to go, at the age of 84, into 20 or 30 different cities and pick up a phone and be remembered and loved and helped by so many different people." And that's on page 61. And I don't know your views on this quote, but I really found it interesting because he says that selling was the greatest career a man could want, but being a salesman, that was the death of him.
Right.
And what are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're exactly right there, Rob. He says it's the greatest career a man could have, but here it's just killing him, and it's deteriorating him, and it's making him not.
He has to travel so many places, and he's never home, and well, he's home, but not that often, and so
But that also brings up the point: does he even have a home? Is there any place where he feels safe at home?
That's an even greater point. Would you want to expand on that for me?
Well, I really don't even think he has a home. He bought a home, but he's really confined in his home, and he can never stay there because he always has to travel because he is a salesman, and that's really killing him because he has no place where he can just go, be safe, and feel comfortable.
And you noted that his father, in a way, abandoned him, and we can see that now throughout his personality. Didn't he kind of abandon his children? Or would you disagree with me?
I agree
Because even though there was the flashback of him having so much fun with his children, and all that, he wasn't around as much as a father should be.
Right.
And even though Biff and Happy's childhood seemed okay, I would just like to take some insight and say that I personally don't think that he was around enough, and while there may be many people who disagree with me, I would say that he is acting like his father did.
I would agree with that. I think you hit that well there.
And, and the point that you brought up earlier, how he saw the visions of Ben and how he was talking to his brother Ben when Ben was dead. Hold on, I have that page noted down somewhere. There's a specific example that I want to cite. It's, I think it's page... Well, there's a page where there's a conversation with Ben when Ben is actually alive, the point that you were talking about when Willie makes him explain about the dad.
Right.
Yeah. And, but then there's another point. Let's see, I've cited so many darn pages. Well, that doesn't matter. The point is that, he's talking to Ben. Ben's not really there. And it just shows that he's, in a way, schizophrenic. And, it's kind of just really sad to see how he's kind of deteriorated as a human being, and how he longs for, this relates to what you said earlier, how he longs for people's, people, how he longs for people, how he's afraid of abandonment. Their approval. And, this shows by him pretending his brother Ben is there. And, let's see, one other point that I found really interesting in this book, there's a lot of symbolism in this play, this play. There was a lot of symbolism in it. And there was one page where it said, It was on page 33. And, here, just read this last line for me.
His flute. He played the flute.
And read the first line of the story.
A melody is heard, played upon a flute.
And his father was the one who played the flute. And I found that interesting because there's some correlation in the play between what he hears and what he perceives and the people in his life. Because obviously he saw Ben, but then, at the beginning he heard a flute, and later he hears a flute, and it's told that his father played the flute. And so it I don't know exactly how it correlates, but it somehow does. I don't know what the connection is, but there's a strong connection between...
There's definitely a connection.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can shed light on to, for that matter? Or?
I was also confused about this. I thought there was definitely something there, but I just can't grasp it.
Yeah, and let's just have like two or one more point that I want to address, and that is well, we already went over the suicide attempts, we already went over the Uncle Ben visit, already went over the flute, schizophrenia. How about we go over one more issue though. One more thing that I want to address. It's Biff's way of kind of dealing with the affair that he saw, and his way of dealing with it is to retaliate against his father, and this might have been the cause of some of his father's hatred towards Biff. After Biff saw the woman, and after he heard the woman in the hotel room, he went out of the room, he cried a little silently, and what I thought was really interesting was after that, he went in the hotel room at first to tell his father that he failed the math test, and after he left the room, he decided, I'm not going to retake that math test, I'm not going to go to college. And that was a way of retaliating against his father, and that further defined Biff as a person who just travels around, never finding an actual home. No one in this family has an actual home. And we will end it with that, and we will have Marley some more up for us.
Coming up after the break.
Coming up after the break.
Right.